My name is Jeff St Laurent. This is the Live Tuesday call. As always, it's a pleasure to have people on and interact with the people that are able to call in live. And of course, for those of you that are on the recordings, always love to have you guys as well as you listen to some great information as I help you transition your coaching business to full-time. And that's the goal in terms of what I do. Today's topic is focusing on your first 3 vital steps in terms of launching your full-time coaching business. You know, there's so much out there that is just bombarding us with information in terms of, where do we begin, what do we do? There's so many different methodologies, if you will, and models, and not to say one's right or wrong, etc., but at the same time, which is right for you, and it's like, where do I begin? And oftentimes when there's too many decisions, we typically don't make any decisions, and we, other than being paralyzed, and then we don't end up doing anything, and we go from there. So my efforts today is to really help you clear that up. So most importantly, you can decide on a path and move down. So just remember, whether you like what I talk about or not, it's irrelevant to me whether you choose to take the path that I'm going to talk about today. However, if you don't, find another one, right? So if you, whatever reason you don't like it, I'm okay with that. Just find another one, because in order to achieve results, you've got to create a decision, and that decision allow you to move forward. And you've got to move forward down a path, not multiple paths. That's the word focus. There's no pluralizing focus. You can't say foci or focuses. So with that being said, before I launch into some great information today, I do record all these calls. I do post them on my website, sellingcoaching.com, under the university. So go ahead and check that out. Got a lot of great information on there. Last week we just posted the 90th call. So we're climbing up there, and that just goes to show you just, a week at a time what it can turn into. And we're just getting rolling, baby. So check out my university on sellingcoaching.com. Also, right on the homepage of my website, I have a fantastic resource for you right there as I bribe you with my dog. And that's just my humor in my marketing, but really that's for my ultimate startup guide for new coaches. So that gives you some of the other elements you want to really start thinking about in terms of your coaching business as you get forward. So that's a great guide right there. And additionally, when you enter your name and email, not only will you receive that guide, it's an audio and PDF version, but also you'll be on my email community, and that will give you a chance not only to be a part of the community where we can interact as well, but also you'll be able to start to understand how I use email to stay in touch with my community, which is one of the most vital pieces of our business. With that being said, the last thing is at the top of my website, sellingcoaching.com, I have an invitation to my private Facebook group. So if you're not a member of that, please go ahead and check that out. We do some great interaction with coaches, a great opportunity for you to speak your message and get to meet other coaches as well. I love Facebook groups. It's a great platform for a lot more engagement, especially even than other social platforms. I find it's a great piece of engagement there. That's why I love that group. With that being said, today's topic in terms of getting ourselves out there in figuring out where do we begin with our coaching business. So I have 3 vital steps that I want to talk with you about. But before we get into the vital steps, there's one piece that we must have that is so crucial, I don't even want to talk about it as a step. So I'm not going to include this in the 3 steps. This is just as a place for really before we do anything, before we take any action at all, before we even start thinking about things. It's understanding our why we do what we do. There's a great book I read not too long ago, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this over the years. And it's a great, great way to really understand the power of why people do what they do, but more importantly for ourselves. The reason why, and you might have heard something like this before, but the reason why it's so important we understand this for ourselves is the majority of the time, whenever you've done anything, you're going to run into roadblocks. Entrepreneurship is absolutely not an easy thing to do. It's a simple thing in terms of the concepts and what we do, but it's not going to be easy. And you're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to run into challenges. You're going to have your ups and downs, so to speak. When those happen, this is where the why comes in. If your why is not really powerful and does not get you up out of bed in the morning and running into your office, or it's not going to get you through these moments. So when you have those challenges, it's going to be way too easy to quit, to slow down, to make excuses. You fill in the blank. So I'm not going to elaborate on this too much, but I really want you to take the time to understand your why And I like to break our why into two different parts. And I've discovered this through the years for myself is there's always been a more of a why, a personal why, and then there's a specific why for your business. And the reason why I've understood the distinction between the two is because over the years, like I said, before I got into coaching, I started as an entrepreneur. Well, I did landscaping and, and things like that, and painting and stuff. But once I got into more of a career of the fitness industry and personal training, I had my own business as an entrepreneur, et cetera. And then I transitioned into coaching. And then even within coaching, I've worked in several different areas of entrepreneurship and business. And then ultimately now, as I help coaches transition to a full-time business. And then who knows where I'll be 5, 6, 10 years down the road. Will I still be helping coaches transition to full-time? Will I be, somewhere else? I don't know. What I have found, though, is that I've evolved over time. I evolve, my information evolves based on what's going on in my life, my perspective of things, and we change. I mean, think back in your lives right now as you listen to this, 2 years, 5 years ago, 6 years, 10 years ago, and then you can go on and on. There's different phases of your life where you looked at things differently. Your life was different. Maybe you weren't married, maybe you didn't have kids, or maybe now you're divorced, maybe now you fill in the blank. You've had a life-changing, experience, etc. So there's so many things that happen to us as humans. So there's one piece that I see that's a general why. It's like no matter what I'm doing for business or a job or a career, why do I do what I do? There's a common theme through that. So to give you an example, for myself, I figured out that my general why is to be a part of people's success. That's it. It's very simple. It's like I love being a part of people's success. So whether it was personal training or whether it was the different areas of niche that I've had within my coaching business over the years, ultimately the thread boiled down to is like when someone created success, whether it was health, you know what I mean, a fitness endeavor or fitness goal, et cetera, or within coaching, someone getting their first client now, quitting their job, things like that. Or when I worked with State Farm Insurance, when they got to a new level, when they achieved a new level, when they had success with their employees. I just wanted to be a part of that success and feel like I was a part of someone's success. And that's my why in general. And I know wherever I go down the road with what I do, I just know that why I'm going to do that, beyond the specifics, is I want to be a part of people's successes. That's it. So that's the general why. I want you to think about that for yourself. And so think about like even why you're thinking about doing coaching, why you did your past career. And even if you hate your past career, right? Or you want to get out of it or wherever you are in that, it's just like what got you into it initially. Or even just different elements in your life. There's a thread there that can help you understand your general why. And then there's a general why that's more specific for your business. And specific for your business and that's going to help you identify what I'll talk about later is like your headline, helping who with what specifically, who you're going after. Typically, there's a specific why for that. So for instance, my general why, like I said, is to be a part of people's success. My specific why for selling coaching, and as I help coaches transition to full-time business, it's not like in a phrase per se, but the biggest part about that is that I've just seen so many coaches, get to this place of graduating and then just are so passionate about it, and then they have no idea what to do. And where I came into this was I saw that, and I realized that I'm like, there's so much stuff out there. Part in motivation why I'm doing this today right now is to help people just stop being paralyzed and not knowing what to do. Is they're being bombarded with information, and I'm not going to assume or say that information is bad out there or not helpful, but whatever, there's a lot of it. It's overwhelming them. So my biggest piece is like I want to help them get specific, because everything I saw out there was so general. Even the stuff out there that I saw, like they're claiming like, oh, I'm going to tell you step by step. The reality was it just turned into like just personal development, and it was very like watered down, and it still left people on the other end like, well, what the heck do I do? Tell me what I actually do. And that's where I came into my why is I want to tell people actually what to do and help them specifically get to the space where I've helped set them up, and then I can help them with that selling aspect. And so it's obviously a longer why, but that's what it should be. Like you should have a longer why when it comes to your specific area of who you're helping with what specifically, and that's going to help you come up with that headline as well when you figure out who you're going after. So that's where I start off as like I said, not a step, but just like I would consider understanding why you do what you do on those two levels, the general why for you and then obviously the specific why for your business in terms of who you're going after. I would see that as a core element that's necessary to even step or even think about stepping into the world of entrepreneurship. Because think about that as like, you're going to battle, and entrepreneurship is the battle or the war, whatever you want to refer it to. And would you step onto the battlefield without any weapons and or armor and protection? It's like, no. You need to have that, and that's your why, because that's what's going to protect you. That's what's going to get you back up after you've been knocked down, and you will be knocked down, and you will be tested. Trust me. And it doesn't matter who you are or what circumstances you're going through or how much support or resources you have or don't have. Entrepreneur doesn't care where you come from or where you're going. It's going to knock you down, and you've got to be prepared for that. And that's where that why comes in. Now let's jump into the 3 vital steps. And these 3 vital steps are going to can get you a lot more specific, and they're going to set you up for wherever you go. And what I mean by that is that there's lots of different paths you can take in terms of coaching. And some people, I want to do products, I want to do webinars, I want to do one-on-one coaching, I want to do group coaching, I want to do more automation and funnels and ads and stuff online and offline. And it's like, I'm not trying to confuse you, but that's what's out there, right? That's what people are looking to do. So with these first 3 steps, my hope for you is that you can get clear on creating a foundation, so then you can decide on where it's appropriate and what specifics you want to add in after that. Because these first 3 things, how about this? You can't do anything else without them. And I'm going to make that bold statement and say you can't do anything else without them. With a little asterisk that says, well, you could do stuff, but what I would guarantee is you're going to keep having to circle back to these things if you don't do them. How's that? So, and you're going to get confused, and you're going to be doing stuff, but it's never going to really lead you anywhere unless you do these first 3 steps. So the first of the 3 steps is creating a financial plan. And a financial plan is a financial plan to transition. Now, these steps I want to go over shouldn't be mind-blowing. If you've been a student of mine, you'll have heard me talk about these things in different capacities and in a lot more detail as well. What my hope is now is to outline how important these are, so you can start to create these for yourself if you haven't done so already. So don't be discouraged if you've already been doing some things right now. If you're already doing some things, and just kind of check these off and say, well, have I done these yet? If not, go back and do them. It's not like you can't do them. So when I say creating a financial plan in terms of how to transition, that's one of, if not the most important thing to start off with. That's why it's step 1. And by the way, I'm going in order of importance. So creating a financial plan for yourself, the reason why this is so important, and I always like to talk about the why, because as an entrepreneurship, it's like, if you don't understand the why, you'll be doing something, but when it gets tough, you're going to be pretty quick to probably stop it or not do it anymore unless you understand why you're doing it. So a financial plan is so important, and mostly because when it comes to entrepreneurship, the reality of it, especially if you've never been one before, as you probably guess, having know something about it, would be the simple fact that there's no guarantee in terms of how and when we're going to get paid. I don't know where my next paycheck is coming from, right? So if I think about, where's my next client that's going to hire me? I don't know. I've got a few leads out there. I got a few people I'm connecting with, but I don't know where that's going to lead to just yet. And then after that, I don't know. So the reality is with a job, okay, if I get paid every other week, then I just know, well, when's that schedule up? That's when I'm going to get my next paycheck. And the other piece to it is I know most likely exactly how much I'm going to get in that paycheck every time it comes, assuming you're working similar hours and pay and stuff like that. Whereas entrepreneurship, we do not have that. With that being said, it can create a lot of financial anxiety. Everyone has a different tolerance when it comes to, if you will, your financial tolerance, in terms of how you tolerate when there's financial stress, when there's more output than income, if you will, right? Or there's not enough money at the end of the month, right? Or more month at the end of the money, should I say. So we've got to start to understand that for ourselves. And the other element to starting creating a financial plan and why it's so important is a simple fact that we cannot put pressure on our business to have to make money. If I'm talking to a potential client, I can't need this person to hire me because my mortgage is due or my car payment's due or whatever. It puts an undue stress on the business. I've worked with clients, and even a new client that I got last week, and as I was talking to them, their biggest thing was like, oh, I want to get out of my job yesterday. I hate it and it's frustrating, etc. And I really need my coaching business to start ramping up. And they hadn't done anything yet. They've been thinking about it. And I said, hey, listen, I'm happy to work with you. However, with that being said, I can't have us working in a space that's needing for you to earn money now. And even if you earn money now, great. I'm not saying that we can't. I'm not saying you can't get a client. You're quick to a client is, well, can you get out and speak in front of some people? Well, yeah, we could get a client from that. But we can't need you to get a client from that. And then another one, another one, another one. It puts too much stress and pressure on us, and it puts too much stress and pressure on the business to have to perform. And not that we don't want to push, not that we don't want to really have metrics that we want to perform by, but we can't set up metrics in our business in terms of results that we can go by. Like, I'm going to get 2 clients this month, or I'm going to get 5 clients this month. You can't measure against that, right? All you can do is you can set goals not against that results, but you can set goals against the activities that we can do that will lead you to getting potential clients. That's the difference, is because those are things that I can control. And then we can see, okay, well, if I've done those things, I call them, revenue creating activities, revenue producing activities. If I do those things on a regular basis, if I make 5 calls a day, if I set up, call up 10 people, a day or a week to set up potential speaking engagements, well, how many speaking engagements did I get out of that? How many then, if I spoke in front of X amount of people, well, how many clients did I get from that? Right, so that's what we got to set up. So we can't put pressure on ourselves for the business to have to perform or to create certain results. We go after those results, but we've got to set metrics more on the activities we can do that ultimately then create the results, and then start to develop statistics from that, so we know, okay, if I get in front of X amount of people, like I always tell people, when I'm working with them, is, hey, you know what, you want 5 clients, you need to speak in front of at least 100 people. Because I've found in the past when I've spoken in front of 100 people, whether it be at once or over the course of, 5 events with 20 people in them each, you do, however you work it, 1 person or 100 with 100 events with 1 person in them, right? After I speak to 100 people in any capacity, that's where I get 5 clients from. I say immediately. I mean, the long-term effect, you can absolutely get more with follow-up and timing and things like that. However, initially, if I speak in front of 100 people, I would expect at least 5 clients out of that. So with that being said, that's what I'm talking about financially, is we've got to create a financial plan. We've got to create a reserve for ourselves, a financial reserve, whether it's a line of credit. And I'm not going to be a financial advisor here and recommend specific things. I'm giving you different ideas. I'm not saying any of them, I'm not approving any of them and saying, oh, you have to do this, etc. I'm just giving different ideas that you want to have a buffer for yourself if, whether you're going full-time or, when you're quitting your job or there's some transition, there's something there so that if your business 1 month doesn't produce what you need to pay for whatever you're having to pay for, you have something where you're just like, okay, I'm just going to pull from my line of credit. I'm going to pull from my cash reserve, right? There's home equity lines of credit. There's business lines of credit. There's actual cash reserves that you can save with your own money and put aside, believe it or not, right? And a lot of people don't do that. But whatever it is, it's finding something where you have a buffer. When I started off, before I had a cash reserve, I was investing, I wrote a book, so I put a lot of money back into my business. I did an audio course, I did more courses. This is, way back when I was speaking a lot more, doing face-to-face stuff. And the virtual age wasn't even as advanced as it is now, where there's a lot more of online presence. But either way, I was doing a lot of tangible products, so there's a lot more higher investment to get physical products because you're printing off thousands of copies, etc. But I needed a buffer, so I had a business line of credit, a $25,000 line of credit that I still have today, and that thing over the past, I probably had it for like 10, 12 years or whatever. I can't tell you how many, hundreds of thousands of dollars I've drawn on that, then paid back, just because it's like, okay, it's the end of the month, and I need to write myself a check for $5,000 because I've got stuff due and I don't have money coming in yet. And the next month I have a big month and I could pay that off. But either way, I needed to have that buffer. Otherwise, what am I going to do? I'm going to freak out. And that wasn't a good thing. And you need to be able to sleep at night. So that financial plan allows you to create that buffer that allows you to sleep. It's kind of like your anxiety medicine, if you will, from the financial thing. In terms of that financial plan, it's starting to take a look at just some simple elements of it. It's just recognizing, what's the minimum dollar amount that I'm responsible for every single month? Like, and get that number as low as possible. I mean, there's a situation where, if you were in your 20s and you were single and you're coming out of college, you don't have a spouse or kids or anyone depending on you. It's like, yeah, you know what? You could live maybe with your family if they allow it, or you can live in a small apartment or live with some friends, or you can just live in your car, for God's sakes, right? To keep things low. But most people that we're dealing with here have families or have responsibilities, and it's not that they can just get rid of everything. But you really got to look at, where you can cut your expenses down, and you really got to look at, where are my expenses going, right? Where's my money going? The vast majority of people, as I start to work with them and I mentor with them one-on-one, and these are some of the things I'll talk about if they haven't done it already, when we start working together, is, and I ask them about their finances, and I'm like, well, tell me about your expenses. How well do you know your numbers? And interestingly enough, even the people that say like, oh, I really know my numbers, etc., and then I start talking about some things and giving them more examples, they're like, maybe I need to go through and look this through again, and seeing where I can cut some things, or being aware of where their money's going. We work so hard for our money, yet on the other end, if we're financially irresponsible, it's like, well, no, why you're not creating wealth for yourself. I mean, even just understanding simple finances. I'm not going to get into this in too much depth, but you save some money. I mean, if it's just stuck under your bed, under your mattress type of thing, if you're just saving it like that, it's like, well, you're going to lose like 4+% a year, just inflation, just with money you earn. So we've got to start being better financially with ourselves, and more so, it's not just to create a financial plan so we can leave our job, meaning I know what my income is, I know what my expenses are, I can create a cash reserve, I can maybe have a line of credit as another buffer. I can know, then I can start earning money in my coaching business and start to know when it's time where if I did leave my job, here's how much I'm earning here, and it's coming close to what I'm needing for expenses, and I've got my buffer set up so I can safely maybe go part-time or just quit my job altogether. So we can create more of a detailed plan with that, but we've got to start knowing our numbers from the beginning, and becoming more financially responsible. And I'm going to extrapolate this one more thing before I go on to the second step is, we've got to be more responsible, because so many people talk about, oh, I want to make lots of money, and I want to have a lifestyle, and I want to be able to do this and do that and buy this and whatever and go here and go that. And when it comes to earning money, there's a financial responsibility for it, and you've got to get good at it now before you create the money, because if you create some money and you're not financially responsible for it, it's going to go even quicker than it came in. Trust me. I've been there in different situations, and I've learned some different things, and never anything bad, like, oh my God, I went bankrupt and things like that. And not that's necessarily a bad thing, it's just a lesson. But either way, you've got to start being financially responsible now, and that's what's going to allow you to create wealth for yourself moving forward. And I'm talking a bigger picture, but I want to kind of extrapolate it out a little bit so you can start to recognize that you starting to understand your finances, so you can start to create a simple financial plan, to leave your job and do this full time, is a lot bigger than just, going through and figuring out, okay, do I want to keep Netflix for whatever, $12 a month, or do I want to cancel it? You know what I mean? Can we look at our groceries and say, how much are we spending every month on groceries? Can we knock that down by $50 a month or $100 a month? You know what I mean? And just looking at some simple things to be better off for yourself. And then obviously, once you start creating the money, then you can start looking at what you can do with it to build and create a better financial situation for yourself and be more stable. Because ultimately, the reality is with our financial situation is it's like, yeah, we love what we do as coaches. But at the end of the day, it's our coaching business isn't everything. When I'm done with my business, it's like, I'm going to be with my family, and I'm going to do things, and I'm going to have fun. So it's like, this is a means of like, yes, let's do something that we're passionate about and that we love. That's even better if we can get paid for something that we love to do. Great. But then at the end of the day, it's like, that's not our life. Our life is everything outside of that. So we can go and live that. So let's be responsible there. And that's where that first vital step comes in. And like I said, if you don't do this and you're missing that step, how are you going to build off of anything else? How is this ever going to actually happen if we don't create that financial plan? That's the first of 3 steps. Let's go on to the second vital step that's going to allow you to launch your business full time. So once we've got that financial plan, then before we do anything else, we want to start to think about what kind of business model do I want to have? And in terms of business model, for the sake of conversation today, I'll just say it like this. In terms of a business model, in terms of how I'm going to market myself. So a lot of people think of business model in terms of, okay, how am I going to create income? How am I going to monetize? So forth and so on. I'm going to pull it away from that because I always look at how do I monetize my business. I always look at that a little bit later in the lineup, so to speak, because at the end of the day, you need an audience, right? Our business is about creating, figuring out where they are, but building an audience, attracting them, and then nurturing and building a relationship with that audience. You can't monetize anything if you have no one to sell something to. So the first stage of anything is like, well, we got to start to build an audience. So when I say business model here, what I'm referring to is how am I going to market myself to my audience once I figure out who they are? And I'll just simplify it here and say, do I want to be online? Meaning I'm going to do it virtually based, meaning I'm going to use social platforms and the internet, and that's going to be my model. I'm going to do it 100% online. Or am I going to go the extreme opposite way and say, okay, I'm going to do 100% offline, which means to me would be more live face-to-face speaking engagements, workshops, etc. Or am I going to have some hybrid version of it? And I would say most people I find have some hybrid version of it because ultimately it's depending on who our audience is. We're going to be able to find them online because online, especially with so many social platforms nowadays, everyone's online, so it's not a bad idea to take a look at that either way. But the second step after that financial plan is really taking a look at is really where do I want to market myself in terms of that platform. And I'll just say, online or offline. I started off my business years ago, back in 2004, as I was launching my coaching business, and I would say it like this: I was 100% offline, meaning I was doing face-to-face events. I did that for 10, 12 years, something like that. But it was face-to-face live events, and that's how I would get out. That's how I would build my audience, is I would get in front of people, and I would speak, and I would pound the pavement, and I would travel, and it was fantastic. It was awesome. I loved it, but that was my business model. And I did my coaching still over the phone, so you could call that virtual-based, but that's why I said that's not the actual application of it. It's what I'm talking about here is how are you going to market? How am I going to market to build my audience and ultimately get clients, et cetera, from there? So from a marketing perspective, I was doing it 100% face-to-face. And then almost 3 years ago now is when I transitioned into helping coaches transition to a full-time business as my business evolved and doing it for a while. And my why changed, right, as I evolved and I felt a calling to this audience. And so now I'm doing it 100% virtual, meaning I'm in my office. I never leave my office. It is truly a 100% virtual business. I could do this anywhere in the world that has an internet and phone connection. So that's 100% virtual. So I've been on both of those ends in the extreme version of it. And so we just got to take a look at you well, where do you want to go? And that's going to lead to the third step, which I'm going to get to in a second. But with that being said, is you really want to start to understand from here is not just, oh, what do I want to do? Like, oh, I just would rather be at home, or I'd rather go face-to-face. There are some elements of that in terms of, you like interacting with people, you like speaking live in front of people face-to-face, you like, getting out of your house, traveling, so forth and so on. Or maybe you're the opposite of that. So we can look at it one way in terms of leveraging how you operate best, what you like best in terms of interacting with people, where maybe some of your greatest skill sets. The other avenue of looking at this would be more from a lifestyle perspective. And I'll just give an example through what I experienced when I was doing it live face-to-face versus a big piece of my transition when I started helping coaches transition to a full-time business and going 100% virtual was I didn't want to travel anymore. My son was getting older. He's 11 now, but rewind almost 3 years, and it's just like he's my only son, and I don't want to, and I don't want to miss out on anything. So I was gone for a weekend or 3 days, or even just 1 day of traveling. 1 day of traveling, even an event turns into like 2 days or 3 days sometimes, depending on where you're traveling to. But I want to miss those times, especially on the weekends where I'd have a lot of time with him. don't want to miss that stuff, because you know what? In 5, 6 years, or probably even sooner than that, he's going to have his own life, and he's going to be into whatever he's into, and he's not going to be running to me saying, "Dad, I want to play anymore. Play with me." And so I didn't want to miss that while it was here. And so that's why I chose that 100% virtual business. And so I'm relaying that to you is because, as you can see, these are foundational things that, how are you going to build on top of if you don't have this stuff, what are you going to build on top of? You don't want to figure this out later on. That's why I'm bringing this to you, because this is from experience. This is from having done it. And this is what a lot of the other stuff, if you will, that's out there. That doesn't mean that it's good, but all that other stuff that you're seeing out there, and even stuff that I can share with you, that comes later in the game. This is the foundational elements that make up your game, and you can build off of. So you really got to start to determine, do I want to be online? Do I want to be offline? Maybe some hybrid version of it, but really base it upon those two areas of, maybe more of in terms of what skill sets do you have, what propensities do you have in terms of loving being in front of people face to face, seeing that, and then also the elements of just lifestyle and how I want to live, and also like in terms of traveling, in terms of where do you live, where do you want to live in the future, do you want to? I love the aspect of being able to operate my business from anywhere in the world. Obviously I can deal with time zones at that point, but I can go anywhere and I can operate my business as long as I've got my my laptop, if you will, and internet connection and phone. So that's a great aspect, because in the future, as my son gets older, that's one thing I do want to do, is I want to be able to travel more, and I want to be able to see different places, but I want to be in a position where I can still operate my business, and that's a big component, but that goes into lifestyle. So I want you to be thinking about that. Again, you don't have to get so detailed, but it's just something that's where I want to start off with, because like I said, very early back in the core foundation of why you do what you do, it's going to evolve over time. You're going to evolve over time. But what's happening in your world now for, let's say, the next 5 years, depending on where you're at with your family and your kids, and you're like I ain't going anywhere the next 5 years. I've got, young kids or whatever it is. But if you're in a situation where your kids are growing up or getting ready to go out the door, and if you will, start their own lives, like, think about what your life's going to be like in 5 years. And now you can go back to your business and you're starting it from a much better standpoint. So that's that second vital step, is determining your, if you will, your marketing business model, on or offline, or some hybrid version of it. The third step to successfully launch your coaching business, and now we're getting into the last part of this really big meat, that without this, you can't go anywhere. And those of you that are students of mine, you'll probably guess what this one is determining your headline. People call it a niche. I just call it your headline, of helping who with what specifically. You cannot go anywhere until you determine this. And this is probably one of the biggest, can I say conundrums? Can I use that word? This is probably one of the biggest conundrums that coaches will have, is like, oh my God, you hear it from everyone. That's all you hear out there is, like, you got a niche, you got to have a niche. However, with all that being said, I'm going to equate this back to, and help you figure this out based on the previous step of, do I want an online or offline marketing business model? So if you've been in the game any bit of time, you know that having that niche, like I say, that headline is vitally important. Helping who with what specifically. It's going to take us from a place of, and give us so much more direction. Without this, it's hard to have any direction when we have a phrase that kind of says, I can help the world do anything, right? To me, that would be the most general statement, right? I can help everybody do anything or get better, right? But when I have that, it's like I don't stand out, who am I really helping, and what I'm really helping with, and where's the value in what I do? And especially in an online world, or anywhere else for that matter, it's just like, I can get all that stuff for free. There's so much stuff that's out there for free. Look at the stuff that I'm giving you guys for free, right? There's a lot of great stuff that's out there for free. So it's like, why is someone going to pay for your stuff? Like, how are you going to get specific with them? You got to start to figure that out, and that's that helping who with what specifically. So it's really important to determine where you can go with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build off of that last step to help you decide how specific you need to go with with this headline of yours is helping who with what specifically. So if from step 2, deciding on the online or offline, let's say you were doing offline, meaning you're doing more 100% of live face-to-face events, meaning you're pounding the pavement, you're going out, you're setting up live speaking engagements, you're traveling to places, whether it's locally or otherwise, and speaking in front of people. If you take that route, I will say it like this: your headline of helping who with what specifically in this third step is less important. I don't want you to get at all that it's not important. I'm going to say it's less important. It's less important because I'm getting out in front of people and I'm speaking. And at the end of the day, if I'm speaking in front of people, right, they're going to start to know, even if I don't say, oh, I help coaches transition to a full-time business, right? If I'm non-specific, but I'm getting in front of them, obviously there's a topic and they're there, right? They're going to start to understand what I do and how I can help them just by listening to me live, right? So I'm not having to, in other words, I'm not having to attract these people from an ad or some work that I'm doing online, which is a very saturated and competitive market in terms of information and attention, not just because there's coaches out there trying to get your attention or other people's attention. It's just the online platform is a very saturated competitive market in terms of, hey, I want your attention. Whether I'm just a person posting that I'm eating pizza on a Friday night with my family, or I'm a marketer and I'm trying to get your attention to download my latest blah, blah, blah guide, right? It's a very competitive market. So, in an offline world, when I'm going face to face, I've got your attention. I didn't need to, market to attract you. Hopefully, I've got a connection, or I was in front of people, or I used my database and I invited people to the event and I got them there. But now I've got you there, and so I've got your attention. So you're going to start to learn about me and things like that. When I did, and the reason I can say it's less important is because I was very successful doing it for the 10, 12 years when I did the offline model of speaking live face-to-face. I didn't have a headline. I didn't have a niche. And that's why I feel like I'm in a great position to help you right now, especially is because I've done both, right? I've done the online, I've done the offline very successfully, and I've done one with no niche really at all, and now one with a very specific niche of helping coaches transition to a full-time business. So the reason I say that offline model, that face-to-face, you can get away with being less specific is because you're not putting yourself out there on a very competitive, saturated market that's pulling for people's attention. So you're making an individual phone call, you're shaking a hand, looking into someone's eyes, and they're saying, yeah, I'd love to have you come in and speak to my people. So it's a very different way of getting yourself in front of an audience and attracting them. And then what I found is when you start speaking to people, and trust me, when I did my speaking, it was like I was the most general guy in the world, right? But yet I would always get clients from it because people would understand how I could help them. They heard my energy, my pace, my tone, my sincerity, or whatever else they heard from me that they liked and were attracted to. And however they started to trust me and start to see that, wow, this guy can help me, that's what led to me getting clients from there. So that's how that second step of choosing where I'm going to market myself is going to help you get and narrow down your headline of helping who with what specifically. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that if I'm doing the offline model of going face-to-face, you shouldn't get specific. I want to make sure I'm very clear about that, because ultimately the reason why we get specific with our headline is because that's going to direct us in terms of, well, where do these people go? So for instance, with my same headline right now of helping coaches transition to a full-time business, let's say instead of doing an online model, I was going to do an offline model and speak face-to-face. Well, now I can say like, okay, well, my local chamber of commerce, maybe I can go there, maybe I can join there and start going there and interacting with people and maybe seeing if I can do some speaking engagements. Well, now I've got to ask myself the question, how many coaches go to that chamber of commerce? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but having done that many times in the past, I'd probably say there's probably none. And some networking groups, like a BNI type of networking group, I would say it's unequivocally zero, because those types of networking groups only allow one business type, if you will. They'll have one realtor, one CPA, one coach, one you fill in the blank. Right? They're not going to have 5 realtors and 5 gym owners and 5 et cetera. So why am I going to go there and start to network with people necessarily if I know that any of them aren't there? Now, yes, could they be connected to other coaches? Yes. But then I've got to ask myself the question, well, how many of them are going to be connected to a network of coaches, right? That's the name of the game. I've got to find people that have a large audience of who I'm going after. So that's not a good marketing opportunity for me. And that's where having a specific headline can allow me then to determine where I'm going to go and where it's most appropriate. So then if I'm still doing that offline model of going face to face, it's then going to help me if I am more specific. It's going to help me to find where I can find these people, where I can get in front of them if I'm going face to face. And then the same thing if I'm back on that step 3 of helping who with what specifically, if from the previous step I'm choosing more of a virtual model, meaning I'm online, I'm on the internet, I'm doing ads, I'm doing posts, I've got my, driving traffic to my website. The name of the game online, bottom line is it's driving traffic. Everything we do online is about driving traffic. Where? It's driving it to a website, driving it to a landing page. Essentially our website's a landing page in some ways, because we should have a strong headline on our homepage with a free offer, a lead magnet, call it what you want, a freebie on that homepage. Go to sellingcoaching.com, perfect example. What do you see when you go there right away? A stunningly handsome man. Yes, just kidding. But then you see, helping coaches transition to full-time business, my name, and then I've got my offer for my resource under that, the Ultimate Startup Guide for New Coaches, right? So it's about driving traffic there. So like I said, if you're going that route online from that second step, when you get to this third step of your headline, this is where it's vital that you're getting a lot more specific. And I'm talking, if you can narrow it down as specifically as you can, even more, that's even better. Because like I said, it's a very saturated market in terms of competition to get people's attention, whether it's Amazon selling something or another coach selling the latest thing or inviting you to another free webinar or blah, blah, blah. We all see it every single day. That's the type of market. So we've got to get to a place where we're specific. And when we're more specific, and I'll just use my headline of helping coaches transition to a full-time business, that allows us to stand out. And not only stand out and get someone's attention, and we get that attention by when they read that headline, they have to know immediately yes or no, is this for me or not? That's the biggest challenge. I go to coaches' websites all the time when I see in a group, etc. They're like, oh, I got my new website up, and they're so excited. And I go there because I want to keep pulse of what's going on in the industry, what's going on, what are people doing, what aren't they doing? And inevitably, 9+ out of 10, I'll say it like this, I go to their coaching website and yeah, maybe it looks good from a design standpoint. However, it's missing 2 vital elements. I don't know who this is for. Like, is this for me or not? Like, what do you do? Because I just see a person like on the top of a mountain with the sun shining and their arms are in the air and they're like, lead this amazing life. And it's like, that's great, but what is this for me or not? Like, of course I want to live an amazing life, but even if my life sucks right now, how do you help me? Like, I don't even know anything about it, right? So they don't have a headline. And so that you lose their attention. Even if I even get to your website, and then if I've got your attention, and let's say they had a strong headline, well, there's no way of me becoming a part and learning more, becoming a part of your audience, and that's where that free offer comes in. Lead capture is so vital. We've got to build that email list. That's email list / I'll call it, like I said earlier, my email community. It's our audience. It's our fan base. This is where we develop and stay in touch with our raving fans, right? So we've got to really get specific if we want to survive on that online marketing model. And additionally, not only does it now allow people to understand, yes, this is for me or not, and get their attention, then hopefully get them on their email list. But the other piece is it immediately gives you more value, or at least more perceived value. So for instance, let me take my headline, helping coaches transition to a full-time business. Let me pull that back a little bit and make it more broad or more generic. And I'll say, helping coaches grow their business. And I'll pull it back even further and say, helping entrepreneurs grow their business. Right? So it's even more general. So if you, as a coach listening to this, you're looking you want to do something with your business, you want to do something full-time, you want to really just knock this out of the park, but you don't quite know how, and you are online and you see, let's just say a Facebook ad as an example, right? You see a Facebook ad, and let's say these ads pretty much, they say the exact same things, and the dude on it looks exactly like me. There's one that's me, and there's another one that's, let's say, my twin brother. We're doing the exact same thing. So for intents and purposes, the ad looks pretty much exactly the same. And the only difference is the headline. And this other person says, helping entrepreneurs grow their business. And mine says, helping coaches transition to full-time. Which one are you gravitating towards? Right? Assuming all things the same. I'll speak for you and say I would be willing to bet that you might look at both, but assuming everything's the same, right? All the words are the same, etc. You're going to gravitate towards mine, because now all of a sudden I'm speaking to you directly. I'm speaking to coaches. I'm not speaking to entrepreneurs. I'm speaking to coaches. I'm speaking like the stuff I talk about here. It's specifically for coaches. Yeah, can other businesses benefit from some of this information? Well, yeah, I'm sure they could, but it's not as much as if they're going to be a coach and they're looking to go full time. So, in addition to that, the reason why the ad would be also that much more effective is because now my ad, it won't be the same. It won't look the same. It won't read the same, because I can now actually talk to this population. I can not only talk to this population, but I can talk to them about something more specifically. Like with me, not only do I help coaches transition to full time, but I niche it down even further, because I'm like the selling guy. I'm selling coaching. I'm helping you with that selling skill set, the art of selling, because I understand like that's what we need to become better at, is that skill set. That's what's going to keep you. That's what kept me going full time now. That's what I attribute my long-term success to. That's part of my why, and my specific why of doing this business and helping coaches transition to full time is because I want to teach you the selling aspect. And you know, pretty much everybody, for the most part, even with people with sales backgrounds, when they come in, you know, some of them think they're great at it, and then they realize like, wow, not a lot of this is transferring. It's a different selling in general. The fundamentals might be the same, but the application of it in terms of how we interact and how we get the business is very different. It's unique to an industry, right? So that I niche it down even further. So now my ad can talk more specifically to that person, right? And this is going to be the difference between someone clicking at least once and or signing up for and or then becoming a part of your audience and then staying a part of your audience. And that's the difference. So if we're talking about online, offline, if we're online, we've got to get that in that third step. We've got to get down to that much more specific headline. And again, the more specific, the better. And most coaches, when we get to that spot, they're like, oh my God, I'm so specific, and I feel narrowed down. I feel like I'm leaving people out, etc. And I'll tell you what, if you didn't do this, you're going to be leaving people out, and you're going to be, you know, selling yourself short, because no one's going to be clicking on your stuff. No one's going to be attracted to your stuff because you're not talking to anyone in particular.